Like first and foremost, it's nice to see you, Annabel, and I appreciate you taking the time. I know where you are is not where you probably would be in these times. But the purpose to have you on here today is talk about what's happening in Yemen right now. This is a really significant humanitarian crisis, has been described as the worst in the world at the moment, and we just want to let people know what's happening there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you say, the situation in Yemen, unfortunately, earned that terrible label, the world's worst humanitarian crisis, about 2 years ago. It was in 2018 that the UN first labeled it as such. And here we are at the end of 2020, and we are looking at the world's worst humanitarian crisis getting worse still. And it's really tragic that we're saying this. But unfortunately, 2020 on every level has been, a terrible year for many of us all around the world. COVID-19 has blindsided, I don't think, there's not a person on this planet who hasn't been affected. But when it comes to Yemen, not only has there been COVID-19, but there's also been a huge uptick in violence. So the fighting is raging at the moment, gone from around 30 front lines to more than 40 active front lines in Yemen right now. And then on top of that, we're nearing near total economic collapse in Yemen. That means food is just unaffordable for Yemenis. And that through this year has pushed us back into the situation whereby we have over half the population facing a daily struggle to survive, to find enough food. And unlike in 2018, when we could do that scale up, right now we don't have the funds, and actually we've had to cut assistance. And it's absolutely heartbreaking that that's what we're looking at. But we had to cut rations back in April, and moving into 2021, where we have the knowledge, we have the ability, this is what WFP does, we can improve the situation of people, but we don't have the funds.
For a place that's had critical points for so long, this is a new one, and this is a really significant one, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think that it can be easy to become a little fatigued that, we hear this all the time. And I think some people get a little bit sort of exasperated with what feels like hyperbole around the situation in Yemen. But these are children, these are women, these are men, these are innocent civilians, these are families who are exhausted after 5 years of war. They can't take another shock.
What does 2021 look like in Yemen, in your mind?
Well, going into 2021, we as WFP, we want to be able to continue to support the food insecure people. That's maintaining support for the 13 million people that we currently support. We, at the bare minimum, we need $1.9 billion in order to be able to maintain survival rations for that 13 million people. Now that unfortunately is actually only around 50% of an adult's daily needs. And then on top of that, what we want to do is, for the most food insecure, we'll be giving them additional rations in order to take them up to about 88% of their daily needs. Now, I know that all sounds quite technical, but that's what our super clever analysts have said. That is the bare minimum that we need in order to be able to prevent the situation from deteriorating further. Now, on top of that, it would also be the nutrition support that we provide to mums, that's pregnant women and breastfeeding women, and to kids under 5. But right now, we don't know if we're actually going to be able to even meet that amount, because we unfortunately don't have the funds. If we can't, what we're going to see next year is a very rapid decline in people's food security situation. Right now, and this was some new numbers that we had out last week, we have about 3.2 million people in Yemen facing what we call IPC4 levels of food insecurity. These are people who are at risk of starvation. And that number is going to go up to 5 million in the next 6 months if we can't take action to improve the food security situation.
Well, listen, I know that it's, as part of an NGO or humanitarian organization, you can't and ought not to comment politically, but everything seems like if the root causes of this aren't dealt with from the international community, this cycle is going to continue, because 5 years of conflict. How long can we carry this on this way?
Absolutely. Humanitarian food assistance is not the solution. It is the absolutely necessary thing that we have to do right now to save lives. The solution is an end to the conflict. And then, as WFP, we're not going to leave at that point. Right. That's when we shift gears and we move from the emergency food assistance into the more resilience programming and help Yemen get back on its feet and help Yemen develop its own future and provide them with the tools. And so what Yemen needs right now, enter the war. We need action to stabilize the economy, such as support for the central bank, because their international currency, their foreign currency reserves are near zero. And then we need the humanitarian assistance to save lives now, right now.
So what are the WFP operations right now in Yemen? I know you're not there, you're here. So there are reasons why you are where you are right now. What is happening on the ground right now in Yemen?
So despite COVID, WFP's operations do continue. Yes, I'm out, but the majority of my colleagues are still in country. We've just had to slightly, rejig who works in and who works out. And anyway, the backbone of our response in Yemen are Yemeni. We have around just over 100 international staff, but about 800 Yemeni staff. And so really our operation is about them, and they're still there working tirelessly. So the bulk of what we do in Yemen is the emergency food assistance, and so that is delivering basic rations to about 13 million people. And then within all of that, WFP actually also provides a huge amount of support to the other humanitarian organizations in Yemen. So we're kind of like the logistics backbone for much of the response in Yemen. And so that means, we're bringing in medicines for WHO, for MSF, we're bringing in things that UNICEF needs in their malnutrition treatment programs as well. We're also bringing in fuel to help WHO and UNICEF run the generators in hospitals and water treatment plants. So it really is, and this is again where with the situation in Yemen, you can't talk about only providing a family with food. They actually need an entire kind of menu of support. We need the support that WHO does on the health side needs to go hand in hand with the support that UNICEF is doing with a lot of the sanitation work, and then the stuff that WFP is doing with the food. It really is about providing that full humanitarian response.
Before we wrap this up, someone watching, what do they do? What do they need? How can somebody participate or help in any way?
I think use your voice. Let's remind Yemen that we've not forgotten them, and remind other people that Yemen really matters. WFP is an entirely voluntary funded organization. Yes, it's mostly donor governments, but equally individuals can donate to WFP. We also have the Share the Meal app, which and through which you can donate a meal to a family, to a child. But I do think awareness needs to be at the center. Educate yourself about what is going on in Yemen, and advocate for the people of Yemen. And let's remember that behind these terrifying statistics of 5 million people at risk of starvation, that is individuals, that is kids, that is women, that is men.
Annabel, thanks for taking the time and sharing this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you very, very much for your time.
Likewise. Talk soon.